If you just want to state your name.
Shirley Jones.
When were you born?
Where?
When and where? Both.
When? 91 years ago. In Bolivar, New York. Do you know where that is?
I don't.
Olean, you know Olean, Wellsville, that area down in the oil field. Yep. And I was 16 when the war broke out. I remember that. You don't, God, you don't, they're too young, you're too young. We were watching radio shows, which we did every Sunday night. We'd fix our lunch or dinner on a tray and go in and sit around the radio and listen to Amos and Andy, Jack Benny, and all those, Gracie Allen. And they interrupted the program to say that they had been bombed and we were at war. And my brothers were gone within about 3 weeks. Boom. And I was 16. And my mother was diagnosed with cancer. So I grew up in a hurry. My father was an alcoholic, very kind, but not very much help. So I grew up fast. But then my brothers sent me allotments. I don't know if you've heard of that or not. They could send it to their wives or whoever. It was money, and I don't know why they called it an allotment. I don't know. But they both sent me some to go to college, and went to Penn State for 2 years, but had to come home and take care of my mother. And it was 5 years before I ever saw him again. That's a long time. Did a lot of things to people when they came home. You know, all got married quick and all. You know. But I remember rationing. We had ration books. The sugar, oleo. I remember oleo. We had to make our own oleo. It was white, and it had a little, like a little bead of coloring that broke open, and then you worked that into the oleo so it would look white or yellow. Well, tasted terrible. No butter, no sugar, gasoline.
I'm sorry, for some reason the cards ran out of space. So I have the other one in there. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me just switch this out.
It's interesting because one of the other people that Katie talked to talked about oleo as well.
Did she?
Yes.
Well, that would make quite an impression
So
on us because it was
yes.
not fun to make.
It didn't taste the same either.
Oh Lord, it
Yeah.
just tasted like Crisco.
Yes, well, yes.
The boys got it. That someone here was telling me, I don't remember this, but they remembered saving aluminum foil.
Mm-hmm.
To do what? I don't know. They couldn't either, but they remembered doing it.
Saving
I
it.
don't remember that one at all. Yeah. But tires were rationed, gas was rationed, a lot of foods. But, my mother, once a week, an order of cigarettes came into Mary Miller's store, and my mother would get in line for my father and I. She wouldn't touch a cigarette if her life depended on it, but she'd go up and get in line for my dad and I. We'd have lived without him, I guess, but yeah, cigarettes were rationed. What else? My gosh. Oh, my cousin was killed. Remember that phone call? And Gabriel Heater. I remember Gabriel Heater. He was a reporter. And he'd always start out, there's good news tonight, or there's bad news tonight. Gabriel, kind of a dumb, yeah. Of course, we didn't have it right in our living room like we would today, thank God. You know, we heard it on the news, but you didn't see it like you do today on the television. Yeah, one brother was in China, Burma, India, and the other one was in England, and lived through D-Day, and came home and was killed in an automobile. So, you never know. And supposedly the war to end all wars. No such thing. I was thinking about it, my God. My mother and my father lived through World War I and World War II. What have I had? We've had Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, on and on and on, and here we are again. We'll surely go to war. So, anything you want to ask me about? Yeah, V-Day was great. Yeah, that was great. But when they came home, we were sort of strangers, you know? It'd been 5 years. And I don't think we ever picked up that same... My mom died shortly after the boys got home. That kind of split up the family, and they got married. And not a happy time. Oh, my sister-in-law, yeah, she worked for the USO in Buffalo. Yeah, I never got into any of that. But that's about it. Oh, no, it isn't. Blackouts. Every night, blackout. Shut the lights off. Civil defense. Anything you want to ask me?
When you first heard like the radio announcement that you had gone to tour, that America was at war, what went through your mind? What was your reaction?
I knew my brothers would be going, and fear. Yeah, and loneliness. Yeah, it was a lonely time. Well, not just my brothers, but my God, all the men in town went. There weren't any boys left, you know. Several of them were killed. But to think it would be 5 years was, and I hated Christmas. If I never hear White Christmas again, it'll be too soon. But we always had to pack something to send to them, and that was hard because you were limited in what you could send, you know. And I had to do it because Mom was too sick. And so I grew up fast.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Didn't kill me. And so far, I haven't had any of my children in the war. Thank God. I think they've missed it. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. My son-in-law was in Vietnam. And my nephew was in Korea. So, yes, you can't miss it, can you? No. Daily life. It wasn't too bad. When I came home, I went to work. I had to leave Penn State. I went to work in the bank at home. And we had a country club, so I played golf, and friends and all the women would go down and play bridge. We put in the time. I hope you never have to do it.
Did you, besides sending like the packages to your brothers at Christmas, did you do other things for the war effort, or was it more of a, you just knew about it in the back of your mind, kind of?
Yeah, you mean did I do other things to support the war effort?
Yeah.
No, I didn't, because I was kind of busy taking care of my mother. Mm-hmm. She had to go for chemo treatments and everything, you know. I know what you mean, because my sister-in-law did. She was in USO, and, but most of that was in the cities. Bolivar's just a little podunk town, you know. Other than the rationing, of course, that was to help the war effort. And
Why were you doing blackouts in a small town? Was it
just
something everyone did?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insufficient space, but I just cleared these last night. What's going on? Sorry, technology malfunctions.
As far as I know, everybody did it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Were those scary, or were they just annoying? Were the blackouts, were they annoying, or were they?
No, you just learn to live with stuff, you know? When I was at, you see a connection to the troops. When I was at Penn State, the ASTP program came in, and I can't think what that ASTP troop program, it was training soldiers, and they took over all the fraternity houses, and they'd march, and we had no fraternation. Oh, we did, but you weren't supposed to. We found a way. That was different. It changed the college life too, you know, it's quite different.
What did you study at Penn State?
I majored in psychology and education. I had 3 years, got 3 years. Didn't quite get the other year, but I worked in education anyway, so. I've often thought about going to that New York State, what is that? Empire State program. They give you credit for life experiences. And, you know, it's up near Bloomfield. It's up off 590 there, Empire State. But I haven't done it, and I probably won't now. What else did I do? I was aware of the war, all right. Most vivid memory. Oh my goodness. When my brothers came home, yeah, I can still see them walking the door. You know. But I could go up and see if she's got that ration book. Do you want to see one? Or you don't care about it? Yeah, let me go up and see if she's got it. I'll be right back. She's just up here. She's coming down.
Oh, wonderful.
She's going to look for the ration book.
Okay. Oh, wonderful.
No, I'll tell you, one of the worst days, although it ended, was when they dropped that bomb, the atomic bomb. Ended the war, but.
How did you find out about it?
Oh, it was on the news immediately. Yeah, I've often wondered how the people made out that flew that plane and dropped that bomb. I've never heard much, but it was bad. Yeah.
Did you watch the news with the second bomb as well?
We watched the news every night. Gabriel Hader. Yeah, but that's not quite as bad as having them right in front of you. It's bad enough, but. And one of my best friends in school was graduated from officers' school, and his parents were there to see the graduation. And he was in the Air Force, and his plane flew in. They were flying in formation, and crashed and killed him right in front of him. That was a hard one. Only child. It isn't happy times.
What was your town like when the soldiers and your brothers came home? Was it easy for them to come back into town?
Very hard for them to come back. You know, God, 5 years is a long time out of your life. And you miss so much history together. And the closeness was never there again. They got married, I got married, went our own way, and it was just... Sometimes the one brother that was killed, that lived through D-Day, I don't think he ever really adjusted to getting home. It's like a lot of the guys today. There's a lot of post-war stress and weird. It's weird.
Did they call it that back then?
Not that I remember. No, I don't think they even recognized it. To tell you the truth. But I think it made a difference in many of their lives. And the jobs, they couldn't stay around home. The jobs were all, that's when people began, that's when everybody started moving away. And they've been, now, you know, families are just, very few families are together. And it kind of all started when they came home from the war and had to go someplace else to find jobs, and kind of the beginning of the breakup of the family. Then we had prosperous years.
I know you talked a little bit about the rationing, but did you do any victory garden at all, or
Did I what, hon?
did you do the victory gardens at all?
Oh yeah, God, yeah, I forgot about that. Victory gardens. My father had a huge garden, but in a small town, most people, they did have victory gardens. For a lot of people had them. My dad had his own, and we lived off that garden, summer and winter. I helped my mom can stuff. Yep. Oh yeah, peaches, tomatoes. And I had to go down cellar and get it off the shelves. That was before the war. And my brothers used to tell me, you know, you're going to run into the mice down there. Damn them. Oh, they were terrible. They loved to get me going, and they sure could. But it was a root cellar, you know. You had to go outside the house and down.
So there would be mice.
Sure, on the shelves. Yeah. Oh me, oh my. Good times too. You know? I don't think families are quite as close today. Maybe some of them are, but I know here, most of us, our kids are, most of my family's in Florida, or Denver, or Massachusetts. Just kind of scattered. Do you have sisters and brothers?
I have one brother.
Do you?
Yeah.
Young? Oh.
He's older than me. He's in college. Did you have any sisters, or was it just brothers?
I always wanted a sister, but I never had one. Just 3 brothers. All my friends are gone. I was looking, trying to think if some of them lived through the war. They're all gone.
Did you ever go to Europe?
Did I ever
Did
what?
you ever travel over to Europe and see any of
No.
the World War II sites?
No. Nope. I've never been overseas. My children are all. My daughter's been all around the world, but not me. No. Went to Fort Belvoir to see my brother graduate. He went to. When he went in, he was sent up to the Aleutian Islands. They made the initial landing on the Aleutian Islands. A godforsaken place up there. And he was chosen for officers training school. And when he came home, my God, he looked 90 years old. Oh, well, that was a harsh environment up there. I couldn't, but as soon as he graduated from officers training school, he put on weight and looked, I thought, my God. Yeah. Then he went to China, Burma, India. So he didn't spend much time in the States.
Have you been to the World War II Memorial in D.C.?
Nope, I haven't. I haven't been around much. When I look at my children and what they do.
You talked a little bit about like the gas rationing. Did you get to leave town at all during the war, or were you pretty much stuck in the town because of that?
For a while, I worked in Olean, and drove friends of mine. We all worked in Olean, so we all went together. And then I got a job at the bank at home, so we didn't do a lot of traveling because you didn't have the gasoline and you know, it wasn't encouraged. There comes Helen. She's a year older than I am, I think. There comes Helen.
Hello.
This is Katie.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Nice
I-
to meet you.
The ration book, good thing I was talking to my daughter. I do have it, but I took a bunch of stuff down to her house.
Oh.
And she said, Mom, I think that's up in the attic with your pile of stuff, so.
Oh, yeah,
So I don't have it,
Yeah.
but I do have one,
yeah.
yeah. I
But
do.
didn't you, didn't you live near
An air base.
that's what I thought. That's
For
why I thought she might be
B-29s.
interesting
Oh.
because.
You know the name B-29?
I do.
Okay. They were built,
Sit yourself
because I
down.
lived in Kansas, and they were built, I was in Salina, and they were built 100 and some miles south in Wichita. And so that air base was built specifically for B-29s because the runways had to be thicker because the plane was heavier, and it took more, more runway and everything. So one of the big experiences of my life was they're a gorgeous airplane, and if I heard it going over today, honest to God, I'd know it was out there,
Huh.
because it's got a certain engine noise. Airplanes all do, and so she lived parallel to the long runway. So she said to me that day, why don't we go down and go to the end of the runway and around the end and over to the hill on the other side, and we can watch them, because they were practicing takeoff and landings, and they just come down and go down this way and go back up again. So we got in the car and we started down the road, and they were going this way and we were going this way. And I don't know why, but I said to her, wait, stop the car a minute. And I got out, and just as I got out, this one plane came down the runway, getting ready to take off again, and they were just, I don't think they were 50 feet off the ground. And the wing went down and the whole plane went up in smoke right before my eyes. And the thing, of course, burned all afternoon. And that's where I met my husband, was at that Air Force base. He was from around here, but that's where I had met him at a USO dance.
Yeah,
And-
she even was involved with the USO, huh?
Huh?
The USO dances, you went to those?
Oh, yes,
yeah.
I went to those.
Yeah.
We had a great big Masonic temple in that town, and they used to have dances down at the bottom of there. And I would never go out to the base. And so one time I decided to go, and that's the night I met him.
Oh, that's the night, huh?
That was the night, yeah. And there were all. You didn't even get to sit down between dances because there were, we were way outnumbered by
Men.
men. And so all of a sudden it dawned on me that this guy came along, and most of them were short, and I was tall, and so they'd be shorter than I was. And so, but all of a sudden I looked up, and I wasn't paying much attention to them because you wouldn't go more than 5 or 6 steps and somebody else had cut in. So this guy cut in, and I kept looking and looking and looking, and here was my husband up here, 6'3" above me. And I thought, well, this is a break. And we no more than got to that point, then somebody cut in on him. And the first thing I know, then somebody cut in on him, and then the next person right behind him was my husband again, and this kept going on until the men got the message.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, they got the message. This one is taken. So that's the way that night went. So.
See, she had all the men. I had none of the men. My little hometown was devoid of men.
Yes.
It just
Well, even my
took-
hometown was by Fort Riley, Kansas,
Yeah, I thought you.
which is the biggest, one of the oldest army bases in the country. And but it was military. It wasn't Air Force. It was military. And when I was growing up in my hometown, if you wanted to ruin your reputation, you went with a soldier.
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't go with them. And the minute that war broke out, whoop, like a button was switched. And it was okay. It was then okay.
Then it was okay.
Yeah, because every mother's son was, you know,
Yeah.
even my own mother. Yeah, that's right. So
You didn't have any brothers, did you, Helen?
I had one brother. He was in the Navy.
Was he in the Navy?
Yeah, and he was sent. Well, once he joined, and he hated to go anywhere overnight. He wasn't me. You send me somewhere to travel or to go, and I was gone. I still am that way. But they didn't do that. He didn't like that. So what he did was he would he was sent to he came and was enlisted. He enlisted when he was about 17. They sent him to Chicago, which was, there's still a training thing there, their big main one for the Navy. And he trained there, and instead of sending him home for a leave, they kept him there for a little while, I don't know why. And then they sent him overseas. And he was over in the Mediterranean on a ship. And he was there for quite a long time and went through he went through the invasion of Africa and Italy, 2 or 3 places along
my husband
Italy
did that.
and southern France.
Africa, India.
Yeah, and he was not too happy because he was, wasn't getting home. When he finally did come home, then they never sent him out again. So, but he was. At one point I thought, well, maybe I'll join the Waves because that was the women's.
Did you know any women that were in the service?
I
didn't.
I knew a woman who joined the WACs.
Do you?
The last thing in the world I would have done was join the WACs. Don't ask me why.
Why? I don't know, but that was the reputation. Isn't that funny?
Yes.
The WACs had a little bit different reputation for some reason.
And they had
It
a
wasn't
terrible
quite
reputation.
Wasn't quite as.
It wasn't as, you just didn't do that. But I had a very good friend who was in the WACs. She kept after me, and finally I thought, well, maybe I'll join the Waves. So by this time, my brother's in Italy, okay? He's younger than I am. So I wrote him and said something to him, and I got a letter.
No way, boy.
No sister of mine is going to be in the military.
That's right.
No, I thought, okay, we won't do that. That was funny. That was really funny. But
Different
anyway.
today.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, as I said, I got so used to those engine noises that one time, when we lived in Chicago for a little while, we lived within 5 miles of the end of the main runway at O'Hare. I could stand in my kitchen window at night and see them coming in. I'd see them lined up about 5 or 6 down the road, with the landing lights. But I could always tell you when the Swiss Air was coming in. Because for some reason the motor on their plane was just enough different
Yeah.
that I could tell it was them. And that was, I enjoyed that being there. I enjoyed that.
Now, you must have had blackouts in Chicago.
Well, this wasn't Chicago. I would have been in Kansas when the blackouts were gone. And we didn't have, we had them, but we, honest to gosh, we were so far inland that we never had any actual, I think they did it for a couple of times and finally they just quit.
There's nobody
Worrying
came
about it.
into the, yeah.
Yeah, because it was too far inland.
Yeah. Now, what was civil defense? Remember, I had those, 3 of those metal cans, big metal cans that came from civil defense. And I can't for the life of me remember what that was.
I don't know, be
I don't
truthful with
either.
you.
I can't remember.
I can't
There's something on the home front,
Well, yes, it would have been.
but
I know we had, at one point I think it was Salina, yeah, because I lived there when that was going on. Because I graduated from high school in 1940, and the war really started about 41. And so by this time I was in Salina and in a business school. And we had men that were out walking to be sure that lights were out, but that was soon abandoned because there was just
no need for it.
no, thank God, there was no reason for it.
Yeah.
No reason for it at all. So they just didn't do it anymore. So, no.
And I don't remember, they were talking about saving aluminum foil.
Yes, I remember that.
Do you? No, I don't. Why would they save aluminum foil for?
Well, but for the metal that was in it.
Oh.
Yeah, because there really is metal in it.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah, I remember that. You're right. Butter was rationed.
Sure was, if you got any.
Huh?
If you ever got any.
Well, you had a racing
You had
coupon.
oleo.
Oh God, I hated that stuff.
I knew you would. Wasn't that awful? Tastes just like Crisco, only it was
was
yellow.
horrible. Horrible stuff. You could get, and of course I was living away from home, so this wasn't an issue with me. So if I had a racing coupon for something like that,
Yeah.
shoes was another thing, by the
Yes,
way.
shoes were rationed.
If I had a racing coupon, I ended up giving it to my mother. She was thrilled to death to get extra sugar, extra,
Yeah.
you know, but I didn't need it because I didn't have an apartment. I was, you know, and so, and we, as I said, we had the men that walked around, but they quit that finally because there just wasn't any reason for it.
I don't remember that did we have ration book for the family, or did every member of the family have?
It depended. Now, in my case, I was living away from home, so I had an individual one. And my father-in-law, who turned out to be my father-in-law after I'd met my husband, boy, the thing he wanted to do most, because I didn't know them, they lived back here,
Yeah.
and I'm out there, and their son goes out there and picks up some Kansas girl and marries her.
Drags her home.
Oh, I wish I had saved the letters that my father-in-law wrote me, because they had a grocery store near Buffalo, and he'd be up early in the morning opening a grocery store, and he'd write me these fantastic letters. He offered me the world if I would just come back so that they could see me and meet me. And he sent me ration coupons for meat
Wow.
and butter and all kinds of stuff that he got in the
And
store.
the black market, how did the black market operate? Remember?
Well, there was a black market then, I think, yeah.
There's a black market with the ration.
You didn't want to get involved in that.
I know you didn't, but I God.
Yeah.
People always find a way, don't they?
Oh, yeah,
they
they
take
did.
something good and screw
They
it
did.
up.
They did. Well, he finally.
You probably got enough now, haven't you?
He finally decided that he was. I finally said to my mother one time, and the war was over by then, or it was, no, it wasn't quite, but the one in Europe was. It was.
When did they drop the atomic bomb? Was it August?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I
August
think it was
45.
somewhere around my birthday.
Yeah.
Like
And
the 5th or
so-
something. Yeah.
I said to my mother, you know, come Thanksgiving, I think maybe I better hop on a train and go to New York and meet this family, and so about that time the whole thing stopped,
Yeah, and the boys came
and I
home.
thought, well, I guess I won't do that, you know, because Harry was on his way home,
Yeah.
and I thought, no, I'll wait. But he was, oh my gosh, he sent meat coupons out there when my husband was, just before we were married, but he was in a service out there, and he'd send them, the coupons were for, I don't know, pounds and pounds of meat, more than you ever got in a family.
Huh.
And we went, so my husband went one time and we bought steak with him, and we had a steak fry with some of his buddies. Oh, there was a place out in Kansas where you could go up on this hill, Coronado Heights it was called. It was supposedly the spot.
Memories. You
You
got
ever-
her going.
You ever remember about Coronado coming to find?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, supposedly he quit. He got up on this knob in Kansas and took a look around and thought, enough already. So you could go in on a little dirt road and you wind your way around this hill. I've got a picture, the only picture I have of my husband and I together, because we've been divorced for a while, he's still alive, by the way, is upstairs, and it was on the top of Coronado Heights. And we had gone up there for that picnic, and they had little places where you could cook up there and stuff, you know. It's out in the middle of nowhere up there. And I drove up there one time when I was out there visiting my cousin. I said, we kept going by the end of this road, and I said, let's go up there. She said, we were in her car. You ruined my car driving up that thing. She says, you're going to have to replace it. And I said, oh, come on, Gene. Don't be silly. So we went up and looked around. It was the same old place, you know. Not very
Same old,
exciting.
same old.
Huh?
Same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but yeah, it was kind of different kind of times. I'll tell you.
Well, it sure was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there weren't any boys to date. I never had a date in 5 years.
Huh?
They were all overseas.
Oh,
the
sure.
boys. It was just the women just kind of
Yeah.
saw each other through it. That and the old men that were home.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, that was. Yeah, we had a lot of.
I just wonder what kind of a war this is going to turn into.
Oh God, yes.
This is worse.
I think so.
But you know what I don't remember? Maybe you do, but I don't remember that we imprisoned the Japanese people here.
What?
We imprisoned. We kept them under the Japanese.
Oh, they
people.
were
They
put
were-
in a camp.
in camp.
Yeah.
I
Did you
don't
know
think-
about that?
I probably did, but I don't remember it. Why? And I also don't remember too much about the Holocaust.
The what?
Holocaust, the Jews.
Oh, I do. I remember that, and I don't know why, but I know why. My husband and I had one of his best friends in college was from Germany, and he and his family had literally escaped from Germany. His father had owned one of the biggest publishing companies in Europe, had millions of dollars and an absolutely gorgeous house in Berlin, and they had to just leave everything and go. Now they eventually got a lot of that back Because just before this friend of mine died, he said to me, I have finally gotten some of those paintings
Yeah.
and the stuff that the Germans took away from them back. But boy, it was, and his mother or his father wrote a book. I wish I had a copy of it, telling about their experiences. And his mother was one of the sweetest little German ladies, or Jewish ladies you'd ever want to know, German Jewish. And she was such a lady. And she, when they came here to live, she'd had servants, she'd had chauffeurs, she'd had everything you could imagine. And of course, all that went. And she worked for the rest of her life when they came here in order to support them. She worked as a cleaning woman in Strong Memorial Hospital. And she never complained for a minute because he couldn't do anything. He was too old. And so
The lives that were upset.
she was the sweetest lady, just the nicest person. And when I read the book, she had gone, during those terrible times, she had gone, if any of them left Germany, they could never come back in. Oh, it's no wonder that Germans really, not only the camps, but just the way they treated them as a group. And she had gone to visit a relative or something in Italy. And when she came back in or tried to come back in, they arrested her and she actually spent time in prison. And I couldn't imagine this woman in prison. And she never, ever mentioned that. I never heard it from her. Never heard it from her. But she was the sweetest gal. And she was such a nice person. And the kids, the friends my husband had in college they liked her so much. And they decided one time that we were going to go over, after I'd come back here, and paint her living room, or their living room for them, help Art do that. So that she didn't, we said to him on the way over, you got the paint? No, we have to stop and get it. Well, what color are you going to paint it? Well, probably tan. No, said the two guys, my husband and his friend. We're going to get some blue paint or something like that, something really nice. So they bought a can of blue paint. So when she came home from work that day, she looked at the living room and she says, "Blue." She goes.
She didn't care for it, huh?
Well, she did. She was fine later, but then we sat down to dinner. And doesn't she said two of what she thought were the grandest things in the world on the table, and one was a whole heart from an animal. Have you ever faced that on a table? Well, I don't recommend it as a shocker. And there that sat, which had to be carved. And then what was the other thing? Heart and something else. And oh my Lord, we thought, we can't, well, to our everlasting
Credit?
we all ate it with, and
Ooh.
tongue, laying there, the whole tongue and the heart. And tongue is actually delicious if you can get by. Heart I can live without, but the tongue is actually delicious.
Is it?
It really is, but you got to get by the vision you got in your mind. You can't handle it any other way. But we all sat there and ate it, as I said, to our everlasting credit, because we would not, any one of us, have ever insulted a woman, because this was, to her, this was the living end, you know. Yeah.
Got anything else you want to ask us?
What was your name? I didn't catch it.
Helen.
Your name's Helen?
What?
Helen Davis.
Davis.
Okay.
Davis, yeah.
Shirley Helen Davis.
Yeah. Yeah.
My middle name's Helen.
Oh.
Yeah. my maiden name was Rathert, which was very German, R-A-T-H-E-R-T. Yeah, and no.
Yeah, you didn't know you were German?
Huh?
I didn't know you had German.
Oh my gosh. My father's family was German through and through. Nothing
Nothing in
both
between.
sides of the family.
Ah,
There were Osterhouses, believe it, don't ask me to spell that, but
yeah.
Osterhouses and Ratherts. And my mother's family was, one side of the family was Scottish, the other side was Irish, and her name was Henry.
Hmm.
Her maiden name was Henry. And the Scottish side was Gilchrist. And there's a town between here and Syracuse somewhere, and I can't think of the name of it right now, where her grandmother, I think, had come from as a child. And I actually went through there one time, and we went down in and wandered around and found a place. And it's just this side of Syracuse on Route 31. Yeah.
Well, we all grew up in about the same area.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, my dear.
Yeah.
You got any more you want to find out?
Oh, well, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming down here and
Yeah,
talking.
well, that's
and
perfectly
thank you as
fine.
well.
I knew that she would have an entirely different slant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wish
what's
some
nice
others-
is listening to the two of
Yeah.
you bring the memories out of each other. That's
Yeah.
Oh,
that's-
yeah.
I don't need to ask anything. You guys are doing it all.
Memory.
Oh yes.
Memory.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Those
It's
were the
what you
days.
got left when you get up to be 91.
Yeah.
Oh, Helen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Tom Brokaw referred to us as the greatest generation. And I started an outreach program and then called it the greatest generation reaches out. As I was watching television one day and I became aware of the number of requests that come over the television for help. And they only give us two ways to respond, either by computer, which most of us don't have, or your credit card,
Yeah.
which they tell you, don't do that. Oh my God, they're missing a huge group of people. When you think of the number of senior residents, I was just talking about the senior resident. And we started it here and it took off, and I got 7 other facilities involved in it, and it took off, and
Yeah.
kaboom.
That's right.
Still going strong. But it was true, you know.
What at church right now, they do some of that,
Oh yeah.
and they're collecting caps for the men that go to Meal and More. The Meal and More that's operated out of the Episcopal Christ Church.
Oh, Christ Church, yeah.
And the men that come to that, they want caps for Meal and More. They've asked us, in the past we've been asked to give lip balm
Yeah.
tubes and something else, I forgot what it was. Toothpaste, small toothpaste. Well, this year they wanted caps. They wanted 60 caps because Devin was saying today that's kind of a large order, so
Yeah.
we're expected to bring them all.
Hmm.
And they had quite a pile of them. So she said, if you go to the Walmart or somewhere and buy a cap, well, I don't get out to buy things much, so I don't know whether I can. If I do, I'll see what I can find. But
What was interesting about the greatest we grew up giving.
oh yeah,
We grew up during the Depression.
we're part of it. We're considered. We'd be
And the
people
war.
from that
and
generation.
We grew up, it was
Yeah.
just part of our life, was giving and
Yeah,
helping.
that's right.
And they've been so generous, and we've given to the Vietnam vets, and sent some stuff over to Afghanistan,
Yeah.
and they're very generous. And that was interesting because I began to hear that the people doing the giving were getting as much out of it as the people receiving.
Yeah.
I feel a part of it. I don't feel so isolated.
Well, true.
Yeah, it is
True.
Kind of ignore us if
Yeah.
they get a chance. I won't give them a
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us left.
Oh, sure, yeah.
World War II, still
sure
quite a
are.
few. And now our children are seniors.
Well, my husband is, as I said, he's still alive, and,
Yeah.
and he's 90. I'm 93, right? Yes.
I can't.
He's 2
I
years
don't know,
older than I
Helen.
am. Well, it gets to the point where, yeah, you have to think about it. And he's 2 years older than I am.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I look at this is why I've been down to see the memorial in Washington.
Oh, they
the
asked me
Second
that,
World
and
War.
I haven't. They asked me if I
Oh,
had.
yes. It's an interesting place because it's a circle of separate monuments, one for each state.
Ah.
Somewhere there again, that thing is probably down to my daughter's, but I have pictures of myself there. And I had said to them one time, they want to know if I wanted to do something in Washington. I said to my grandson, I want to go down to that memorial. And so we went down, and I had my picture taken by the New York State one and by the Kansas one. And they have, so they have a pillar for each one. And then I think the most impressive thing to me was the pool that you stand in front of that looks down toward, now let me
It's
see.
the mirror lake
Huh?
between the two, between
You
Abraham Lincoln.
yes,
And
it's, yes.
I think, what is the name of that? Mirror, not mirror.
Yeah,
What's the
Reflecting
name?
pool.
What? It is.
Reflecting pool.
Reflecting, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you can stand there and look down there and see that. And but up above it, it's got a plate with stars. And one of those stars stands, each one of those stars stands for 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, some awful number of people that died during the Second World War. Amazing. And that isn't just civilians, I'm talking about
Yeah.
military people. Yeah, military people.
Hmm.
When I realized what it was, the tears come to your eyes. You can't help it. You just can't help it. You know, because it's something that you don't, even though I lived through it, I never think of it in terms of that,
Yeah.
that kind of numbers, you know. But, no, I don't think about that, but, no, it was interesting. So I'm very much, I have given a lot of money to this, what do they call it when they take the men down to see it?
Honor flight.
Oh, the,
Yeah. I've given a lot of money to that because I think every one of those guys ought to be able to go down and see
yeah,
that.
see that, yeah. My son-in-law's gone down with them.
Yeah. It's very nice down there, yeah. And then you can look up, they've got actually gave money to help get it built, to be truthful with you, that's when it started. Because, what was the senator from Kansas that was in office for so long?
Dole?
And he's the one that started, and I sent money to him, and then little by little I sent more, you know, and then I had a friend whose husband was a Japanese American. He was partly Japanese, partly American, and he fought with the military in the Battle of the Bulge in Europe during the war, and in Italy and various places like that. His name was Takasawa, and he fought with that senator from Hawaii. Well, I don't know what his name was, but anyway, he fought in his unit that went all through Europe and fought so well. And he had a group of those people and so when he died, I said to his wife, would you like me to make a contribution to that in his name. So that's what I did when he died, because she was thrilled to death. She said he would have liked that. So it's an interesting place to go, and I had his name put in there.